Hi there. Welcome to Module 2 of Assessment and Data-Driven Decision-Making, ED 811 at Midland University. This particular module takes us a little further in our voyage toward understanding assessment and data-driven decision-making in educational and professional contexts. This week at a glance reveals that you'll be provided an opportunity to achieve certain learning objectives, to look at assessment versus evaluation through a short brief, to watch a video that also reinforces these points, and then engage in some learning activities like a discussion board forum and an assignment. Let's talk for a moment about the learning objectives. This particular module will provide you an opportunity. By the end of this week, you should be able to clearly define and differentiate between assessment and evaluation, recognizing the distinct purposes, processes, and applications of each of these in educational and professional contexts. You should also be able to demonstrate the ability to select and apply appropriate assessment or evaluation approaches in various scenarios, justifying your choices based on the goals and intended outcomes of the process. And then lastly, you'll be provided or afforded opportunities to critically analyze the impact of assessment and evaluation practices on individual and organizational performance, looking at several ethical considerations and implications for continuous improvement and improvement science. Building upon last week's or last module's definition, we review a working definition of assessment. That assessment is really a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to inform decisions and improve policies, practices, programs, and the like. Now, assessment, again, is not just about gathering a lot of data and information, although that is part of it, but also about using it to understand what's working well as what's not working, and then to identify where strategic and systemic improvements are needed. Assessment is conducted at different points in time. We discussed in the last module that there are assessments that take place before an improvement or intervention is implemented. These we call diagnostic assessments. There are assessments that take place during the intervention or sort of improvement process. Those we call a formative assessment. And then lastly, there are assessments that take place at the end after a decided period that we call summative. Some key insights about assessment would be that assessment is really designed to improve quality, to often used to identify systemic or systematic strengths and weaknesses of individuals and groups. And we also covered several examples of this where one, you had the example of the high school chemistry teacher who's concerned about student learning around chemical reactions, who deploys a range of strategies from in-class practical experiments and demonstrations to videos and lectures, as well as reinforcement activities, and then analyzes that data just in time in the moment to gauge the amount of student learning that is taking place, as well as to inform decisions about where remediation or repetition may be necessary, points that need to be reinforced in other modules or units. That's the sort of classic example of assessment. There are other examples of assessment that you will encounter in this week's reading and activities, like the muddiest point exercise, where students are provided an opportunity to write or to share what's still unclear even after the lecture and teaching and learning has happened. There's also the minute paper, which many instructors K-12 and post-secondary use, where you offer students up to 60 seconds to really write down what was most useful from today's lesson, from the lecture, from the chapter reading, as well as to identify and write out questions that remain for them. And so I encourage you to take some time as you're moving through the module this week to catalog the examples of assessment that are referenced and shared. The flip side of the coin is evaluation, and there are terms in the English language that often are closely related but different, and because of their close proximity can be confusing for folks in their use of them. For example, many of you will be familiar with the difficulty that some people have in distinguishing between the word award and reward. Award and reward. Similar confusion swirls about terms like attitude and aptitude. Attitude, which is one's sort of current state or condition, and aptitude, which is really about one's state of mind and also level of proficiency and expertise. The terms assessment and evaluation are similar in that people often use them almost like synonyms, but they're not. They are quite different. Evaluation, here's a working definition of evaluation. It's a systematic process for making judgments about the quality, effectiveness, or the value of a program, intervention, or practice based largely on the analysis of data and evidence. It involves determining whether certain objectives are met and estimating overall impact, as well as summarizing the success of, say, a change effort, or in this case, in K-12 and post-secondary, of a teaching and learning moment or a course. Unlike assessment, which is often ongoing and formative, evaluation is typically summative and focuses on assessing the overall success and worth of an initiative. It too has key insights, whereas assessment is largely used to improve quality. Evaluation is used to judge quality. It is often used to determine the effectiveness of programs and interventions, and concerned again with judgment about the effectiveness or the value and impact of a program, project, or practice. So take a moment, press pause, and take some notes about these key differences between assessment and evaluation before continuing on with the video. So I hope you took a moment to pause and clarify your notes and organize yourselves in the differences and distinctions between assessment and evaluation. One classic example of evaluation is often used in medicine where, for example, if an individual is suffering with some sort of condition, the medical doctor will take all sorts of diagnostic assessments and other kinds of checks and then issue a prescription or treatment. And then after that treatment has been administered for a period of time, say a couple of weeks to a month, then they will go back and evaluate the impact of that treatment on the health condition or the person's overall well-being. We mentioned too in the readings this week that evaluation is often about judging the worth or the success of something at the end of a decided period, often using benchmarks, standards, or key performance indicators as thresholds for really evaluating, judging, or measuring success. So an intervention is designed to not only make improvements, but to raise the level of quality or raise the level of performance to a certain benchmark or standard. And if the intervention or the program practice catalyzes change or improvement that rises to the level that exceeds that threshold, then one can determine the intervention as effective or successful. And if performance is beneath that standard, then generally it is judged as not successful. Comparing these two together, assessment and evaluation, assessment typically is process-oriented, provides feedback on performance for improvement. It is based on observation, ongoing and continuous, and largely absolute. while evaluation, on the other hand, is outcome or product oriented, determines which objectives are achieved based on this level of quality defined by or set by standards, and is largely comparative. So now I encourage you to pause the video, think through metrics for determining success based on assessment and evaluation, in keeping with the readings from this week as well as information shared in this video. If you're interested in more information about assessment and evaluation, I encourage you to check out Module 2 in the Canvas classroom. Check out the module readings, the video, and the textbook. If you have any other questions, please reach out to me for more information. Take care.